My name is Deshawn, and I want to tell you about the day a police officer decided he already knew everything about me. Before I said a single word, it was a Tuesday morning in October. I was 16 years old. I had on a grey hoodie, dark jeans, and the white Air Force Ones my dad had bought me for the first day of school. I was walking across the parking lot toward the main entrance of Jefferson High. My backpack was on my shoulder. My earbuds were in. I was listening to a podcast about the space program because I had a physics test third period, and I was trying to remember the difference between escape velocity and orbital velocity. That is who I was at 7:47 in the morning on that Tuesday, a 16-year-old boy thinking about physics. I did not hear the patrol car pull up behind me. I did not hear the door open. The first thing I knew was a voice, loud and sharp, cutting through whatever the podcast was saying. It said, "Hey, stop right there. Do not move." I stopped. I took my earbuds out. I turned around slowly because I had been taught since I was 9 years old exactly how to turn around when a police officer tells you to stop. My father taught me. He sat me down when I was 9, and he explained every step. Hands visible. Move slowly. Do not reach for anything. Say yes sir and no sir. Look at their face but do not stare. I had practiced it, not because I had done anything wrong, but because my father knew that in America, a black boy being stopped by a police officer is a situation where the difference between the right response and the wrong response can change everything. So I turned around slowly, hands at my sides, and I looked at the officer walking toward me. His name badge said R. Morrison. He was white, mid-30s, heavy-set, with the walk of someone who had decided before he got out of the car what kind of interaction this was going to be. He looked at me the way some people look at a problem they have already solved. He said, "Where are you going?" I said, "School, sir," pointing at the building behind me. He said, "You go here." I said, "Yes sir, I am a junior." He said, "What is in the backpack?" I said, "Books and my laptop, sir." He said, "Open it." I opened it. He looked inside. He did not touch anything. He stepped back and looked at me again, and then he said something I have not forgotten for a single day since. He said, "I am going to tell you something and you need to hear it." He said it the way people say things when they want you to know they are doing you a favor. He said, "I have been doing this job for 11 years. I know what I am looking at. Kids like you, in hoodies, hanging around school parking lots at this hour. They are not here to learn. They are here to cause problems. And the ones who cause problems end up in a place a lot worse than a classroom." He paused. Then he said, "You look like a smart enough kid. So I am going to give you some advice. Pull your pants up, take the hoodie off, and try to look like you belong here. Because right now you look like trouble. And trouble is something I do not have patience for." The parking lot was not empty. It was 7:47 in the morning. Students were arriving. The bus had just pulled up to the curb 20 feet to my left and students were filing out. 3 of my classmates were walking past us on their way to the entrance and they slowed down. They were watching. Some of them had their phones out. I stood there with my backpack open and my earbuds in my hand and I listened to Officer R. Morrison explain to me what I looked like from the outside. In front of people I went to school with every single day, and I felt something happen inside my chest that I do not have a precise word for. It was not fear. It was not anger, not yet. It was something quieter and colder than anger. It was the feeling of being reduced, of being looked at and having everything about you collapsed into one image that someone else decided on before you even turned around. He was not finished. He said, "You got any ID on you?" I said, "Yes sir," and I reached slowly into my front pocket and I took out my school ID and handed it to him. He looked at it. He said my name out loud, Deshawn Carter, like he was reading a piece of evidence. He said, "Deshawn, I am going to run this. If anything comes back I am going to need you to put your hands behind your back." I said, "Yes sir." He walked back to his patrol car, I stood in the parking lot with my backpack open and the October air coming through my hoodie. And I waited. The students from the bus had mostly gone inside. 2 of my classmates were still watching from near the entrance doors. I did not look at them. I looked at the ground and I breathed the way my father taught me to breathe in situations that required patience. In through the nose, slow, out through the mouth, slower. Do not let your hands shake. Do not let your face show what is happening inside. Officer Morrison came back. He handed me my ID. He said, "You are clear." Then he looked at me one more time and said, "Stay out of trouble, Deshaun." Like the 11 minutes I had just spent standing in a parking lot being told I looked like a thug was something he had done for me. Then he got back in his patrol car and drove to the other end of the parking lot and parked there. I put my earbuds away. I closed my backpack. I walked to the entrance doors. My classmate Jerome was waiting just inside. He said, "Bro, you okay?" I said I was fine. I was not fine. But I said I was fine because that is also something you learn. You learn to say you are fine so the day can continue. I did not tell my father that morning. I did not tell him at breakfast. I texted him once, noon. And I said, "Something happened today. Can we talk tonight?" He replied within 2 minutes. He said, "I will be home by 6. You okay?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Okay. 6 o'clock. He did not ask anything else. That is my father. He waits for the full story before he responds to any part of it. I need to tell you something about my father before I tell you what happened next. My father, Raymond Carter, has been with the Jefferson City Police Department for 23 years. He started as a patrol officer. He worked his way to detective, then to lieutenant, then to deputy chief. 4 months before the Tuesday I am telling you about, he had been appointed chief of police of Jefferson City. His name and his photograph were on the department website. His name was on the sign outside the main precinct building on 5th Avenue. He drove a black department SUV with the chief's insignia on the door. He had been written about in the local newspaper 6 times in the past year. Officer R. Morrison had been with the Jefferson City Police Department for 11 years. He had worked under my father's command structure for 4 months. He had attended the department-wide meeting where my father was introduced as the new chief. He had simply never connected the name Raymond Carter to the 16-year-old boy in the grey hoodie. In the Jefferson High parking lot, he had decided who I was before he got out of the car. He had not needed my name. My father sat at the kitchen table that evening and listened to everything I told him. I told him exactly what happened in the order it happened. I told him about the parking lot and the backpack and the ID and the 11 minutes. And what Morrison said about kids like me. My father did not move while I talked. When I finished, he asked me 3 questions. He asked me what time it happened. He asked me if anyone else witnessed it. And he asked me if Jerome was one of the students who had been watching. I said I thought Jerome had his phone out near the entrance. My father nodded. He said, "Okay." He got up and poured himself a glass of water. He stood at the kitchen counter and drank it slowly. Then he turned around and said, "Deshaun, you handled yourself exactly right. I want you to know that first. Everything else comes after that." The next morning, my father drove to work in his black department SUV. He walked into the precinct on 5th Avenue. He went to his office on the 4th floor, which has a window that looks out over the parking lot where the patrol cars come and go. He pulled up the shift records for the previous morning. He found Officer R. Morrison's patrol assignment. He pulled the body camera footage. Body cameras had been mandatory in Jefferson City for 2 years. Officer Morrison had been wearing his camera. The footage showed 11 minutes and 23 seconds of a 16-year-old boy with a backpack open standing in a school parking lot being told he looked like trouble. My father watched the footage twice. Then he called the department's Internal Affairs Division. Then he called the superintendent of Jefferson City Schools. Then he called his assistant and asked her to schedule a meeting for the following Monday. That included Officer Morrison, Morrison's direct supervisor, the union representative, and the department's legal counsel. Then he sent me a text. It said only, "I saw the footage. I am proud of you. See you at 6. The Monday meeting lasted 2 hours and 40 minutes. I was not in it. I know what happened in it partly from what my father told me, and partly from what became part of the public record later." Officer Morrison was presented with the body camera footage. He was asked to explain the basis for the stop, the duration of the detention, and specifically the statements he made about what certain kinds of kids do and where they end up. Morrison said he had been acting on reasonable suspicion based on the student's appearance and location. He was asked to define what specifically about the appearance and location had generated that suspicion. He could not provide a specific answer that did not refer to the grey hoodie. He was informed that the footage would be reviewed by Internal Affairs. Under the department's bias-based policing policy, he was informed that a formal complaint had been filed by the student's parent. He was then informed, if he had not already understood it, that the student's parent was the chief of police. My father told me later that the room was very quiet after that sentence. He said Morrison looked at him for a long moment. He said he could see Morrison putting it together in real time. Deshaun Carter, Raymond Carter, the photograph on the department website, the sign on the building, 4 months of working inside the same command structure without ever making the connection. My father said he did not feel satisfaction in that moment. He said he felt something more complicated than satisfaction. He felt the specific weight of knowing that, if his son had been any other black teenager in that parking lot, the footage might have sat on a server somewhere and nothing would have happened at all. The Internal Affairs investigation took 3 weeks. At the end of it, Officer Morrison received a formal written reprimand for conduct unbecoming an officer, specifically for making statements that constituted bias-based profiling during a pedestrian stop. He was required to complete 40 hours of additional bias training. He was placed on a performance review period of 1 year. He was not fired. My father told me he had considered whether to push for termination. He said the decision not to was not about protecting Morrison. It was about what the reprimand on the permanent record would mean for every future interaction Morrison had, and what the training requirement would require him to confront about his own assumptions. He said, "Deshaun, firing someone removes them from view. It does not change what is inside them. What I want is for what is inside him to change." He paused. Then he said, "I do not know if it will, but this gives it the best chance." Joe did have his phone out that morning. He had recorded 2 minutes and 14 seconds of the interaction in the parking lot, including the moment Morrison said, "Kids like you in hoodies are not here to learn." Joe asked me 3 weeks after the investigation was concluded whether I wanted him to post it. I thought about it for a long time. I said no. Not because I wanted to protect Morrison, because I had watched my father handle it in a way that used every institutional tool available, built carefully over 23 years of his career, and I thought that the footage posted online would generate 48 hours of noise, and then disappear. What my father had done would stay in a permanent record. It would follow Morrison to every review, every promotion consideration, every future complaint. The noise goes away. The record does not. I am a senior now. I am applying to colleges in the spring. I am applying to 3 engineering programs and 1 pre-law program because I have not decided yet which direction to go. My physics teacher this year told my father at a parent night that I have one of the strongest analytical minds she has seen in a junior level class. My father thanked her. On the way home he told me what she had said, and then he said, "I already knew that." He said it the way he says things, that he means completely and without any need for elaboration. I am a 16-year-old boy who on a Tuesday morning in October was told by a man with a badge that I looked like trouble and that people like me never amount to anything. I want you to know what I am amounting to. I want you to know it specifically and in detail, because the opposite of being reduced is being specific. The more specific you are about who you are, the less room there is for someone else's assumption to fill the space. My name is Silent Truth. Every voice that was silenced deserves to be heard. And every person who decided they already knew your story before you opened your mouth deserves to find out how wrong they were.